Hello there, people of love. Welcome back to African Bridal Experience on this season when we talk about the marriage blueprint. I sit now with a woman who has, put me in certain positions, and I know that we haven't even started our conversation, but she has peeled back some layers of who I am and has brought out the inner child in me. Ironically, this is a woman who is an illustrator, writer, and she ensures that children get the most out of the content that they consume. Ladies and gentlemen, with her little miracles, we're talking with Mansu about raising little miracles. Would you want to marry somebody like your mommy when you grow up? Yes, and I've got your answer. So yes,
wait. Chid Ebube.
No, he answered.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. Is it physical? Wait, is it physically or?
Hello there.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm like, is that me?
Of course it is you. I mean, you see,
Thank
still,
you.
there are a couple of things. And before we get into it, right, I need you to understand why this woman is such an amazing artist, such an amazing writer. Is she has 3 children's books, right? And I was reading one and now I feel the need to have cake. If you want a backstory, find the book and read it. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
And so Tara is basically her muse, right?
It is.
Yeah, for these 3 books, they're based off of a character, Tara, and I cannot wait for you guys to get to experience that. But today is not for me to do the review and give you people all of the leaks. No, I do not do that. My job is to ensure that you get the value by buying it and reading it for yourself. Sorry.
Thank you.
So Mansu, over to you now.
Yep.
So we're just going to shift this and then we're going to talk, right?
Sure.
Because now we're going to delve into a couple of things. Now, behind the camera, before we all started, I and Mansu have had an extensive conversation. It felt more like she was my therapist and I was the one on the couch. But now I get to peel back layers too as well.
Let's go.
So in your own words, this is something I like to do with my guest. I'd like you to introduce yourself in your own words.
Right. So my name is Mansura Liloafi, but as I said to you earlier,
Of course.
you can call me the Mansu. Right. And basically I'm a creative entrepreneur. As you've seen, I write children's books.
Yeah.
I write songs now. I write films. And I just, curate ideas and I try to
Execute.
make people experience them the way that it's in my head.
I
So that's
like
pretty
that.
much what I do.
You see what I'm talking about? My bias is not established out of the fact that she's here.
Yeah.
It is that it is what it is. What is known need not be said. And that is it. And so I like that you've been able to talk about all the different facets of who you are, and how you explore it, right?
Yep.
And so today we'll touch a bit more on one. We're going to run down that rabbit hole,
Okay.
of you being a children's book author.
Yeah.
We're going to go down.
Sure.
And so mine is, where did it start? Why did you want to start writing for kids?
Okay, interesting. So, anyone who knows me knows how restless I can be with, I don't like to be idle. And so I got pregnant in 2019, shortly after I got married. And it was one of those textbook pregnancies. It was everything you could think of. I was sick. I couldn't eat. I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't do anything. And I was living in a different city that I didn't know anyone at the time. I was living in Kano. My husband was working there.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, I cannot not be doing anything.
Yeah.
And so I'm a writer, so I would write to my child. I would read to her. I would write a lot of poems. I had like a whole diary. My phone got stolen, by the way. And I lost all of that. So and then I said to myself one day, what is the blueprint that I have? Sometimes I have intrusive thoughts, as with many people. So yes. And it
We all
was
do.
that the fertility rates of women when they're about to have children is actually very high, right? Or mortality rate, pardon me,
Yes,
is very high. And so, there was that fear at some point that, if I die while I'm having a baby, what's going to happen? And I'm hoping that the baby survives, of course. I don't know where that thought came from. It was just, from the idea.
Intrusive thoughts.
And so I said, let me start writing.
Yeah.
And then I wrote the first story and the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. And I was like, it could become a thing. Again, I'm a creative. So I'd always think of ideas. before we got to this final product,
Yeah.
I had tried about 4 or 5 illustrators to
Right.
get to where we are today. It was basically just let's just write the story, create a blueprint, give it to someone who will raise my child, my husband,
Right.
and then let the child just enjoy their lives.
Mm-hmm.
But it evolved beyond that eventually because prior to when I had the kid, I started to consume a lot of kids' content or children's content.
Yeah.
And what you find out is who's creating the content and for whom. It's more Western, so
Yeah,
think
of
of
course.
Peppa Pig, think of Dora the Explorer, think of all the
Coco
popular
Melon,
ones, Coco
yeah,
Melon. It's mostly very Western and nothing
Yeah.
that is truly representative of the African child.
get
And so
that.
I said, crazy thing. What of the character before it became Tara?
Mm-hmm.
It was actually, I think, Raz or something, some Indian, some Indian name. And then I was
Why?
like,
Who? That was your idea.
yeah, it was. But, but when I read it, I'm like, it doesn't, I can't even connect
connect,
with
even
it.
you
Like,
wrote,
what
yeah.
is, and then, we had to peel the layers. I went back, I wrote to many of my friends and I said, okay, so if you were to think of a Nigerian child,
Yeah.
for my friends who actually say enjoy watching kids content or cartoons,
Yeah.
what name?
Aye.
And there's no, it's so good. Your stories are so
Of
wonderful.
course. Who lives on a pineapple under the sea?
And then I was like, okay, what names can we try? And I wanted this child to have a set of two brothers who were twins.
Right.
Just again learning about dynamics of family. And so a friend of mine recommended Tara, and I was like, it rolls so sweetly on the
Yeah,
tongue.
it's just, I mean, it rolls off, it really does.
And then what we did was look at all the characters that the Western guys have created. These guys are very deliberate. And,
Yes,
I hope
of
we
course.
get there about this deliberate and intentionality. It's that the popular characters are 2 syllables. Dora, Peppa. It's usually...
It is. I see it now.
Barbie. It's usually 2 syllables because, kids can easily retain that. They can remember that.
It's Mama, Papa, all
Thank
over
you,
again.
Baba.
Yeah, of course.
And then you're like, Tara, it just works. Every time my daughter is like, my mom does Tara. I'm like, yes, girl, you go, girl.
That's it.
And
Brag.
basically that's the journey. That's how we got here. We've written 3 books now and published 3 books. Before the end of the year, we're looking to do 4 more.
Ooh.
And then by Q1, we want to hit our 10-mark book. 10-mark
Hey.
story. But that's just the beginning.
Hey, I love that.
The books are just the beginning. It's way bigger than that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's important representation for one,
Absolutely.
because as it is, like you're saying, a lot of the times you would see that now people who make content for kids or content that adolescents would consume are more intentional about inclusion. We've seen more Black superheroes in the past decade than we've seen since the inception of comics or anything. Yeah. And so my question to you now is, beyond that, I want to delve into something that is a little controversial, right?
Okay.
Across the world, people are putting out content, writing books, and it's more about not what the kids should learn or what they feel the kids need or what they want at the time, taking them into account. It's more about grooming. And I'm trying to be careful how I put that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because
and I feel like you're putting me on the spot.
no. And
But
so there is a new there's a new wave of kids content, books, whatever it is, and then coming down to this climb. As much as you're trying to, of course, be aware and be sensitive and woke, as the word is, you're careful now because obviously you're in a different climb, your beliefs are different, your understanding of kids' needs are different.
Definitely.
And so would you say that you're at a point where you would, regardless of what the influence is externally, the identity of where your books are going, Tara is going to be Tara, and this is the identity we have for her?
It's interesting. I'd answer that in 2 ways.
Yeah.
One is all of these inclusion and diversity. This is perhaps the only time when and where I drop my wokeness. Perhaps the only time.
Yes,
and then I
please.
fully embrace my culture. In essence of, I try not to dabble around certain lines.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So culture being culture as a Yoruba woman, Nigerian woman, and then of course my religious beliefs. But I do not go out to condemn.
Obviously,
I would not do that as a creative. I also let people be what they want to be.
Absolutely.
The other side of the coin for me is to not impose your ideas on other people, right? And I think that's what creativity also allows you. One is express yourself, right? But secondly, is allow people to take in that expression without necessarily, imposing those your ideas and thoughts of them. They would gravitate to whatever you create. Your type of people will gravitate to whatever you create. Now, the second side of the coin for me is every time I talk to my husband, he goes, Tara will be the brand will be so big. I'm like, of course it would be. And so if Disney or Sony come to buy you and they say this is the only caveat, I'm telling them buy it first and then do with it whatever you want.
Because then it would be out of my hands. It would be your character.
Buy it first. Give me my millions of dollars so that I can create something else entirely that I want, that represents me.
Like
and then whatever you guys want to do with it, please all
run
well
with
and good.
it.
But
Run with it.
I think I would say those are my two submissions, and
I think that's reasonable, and I like that. It is you being a creative, a business person, and at the same time, in a way, not compromising any of the values that make you who you are. So, the question I think I had, the question I do have for intentional parenting is this: first, I want to establish background. What was yours like? What was your upbringing like?
Ooh, that's a hard one. So, what I've come to realize was. Again, so I'm a storyteller, so I like to
Please
back
do.
stories.
I love story. I've been welcome.
When I talk to myself a lot. When I was coming this morning, I was saying things like, and this is a conversation I've had in the past couple of weeks with my sister, with my friends who are women, that when women grow older, you tend to see your mother in a different light. Specifically your mom.
Yes.
You're like, oh, now I understand. Understand why, she was this way, why she made these decisions, understand why these things happened the way they did. So you're more empathetic towards her. And then you gravitate towards her as well, women to women. Whereas it's the converse for men, and I was going to speak to that earlier because it was interesting. You're the first of many men that I've spoken to who, as they grow older, are trying to get closer to their dads. So what I know is that as men grow older, we just get distant, more and more distant.
It is natural,
And so, based off of that, I see my childhood in two different lights.
Okay.
Right. For my parents, I think they were incredible parents. They were amazing people, and of course, much of who I am today is owed to them.
Yeah.
But also, I recognize that they could have been better. Things could have been done differently. When I was, I think, 18 or 19, I can't quite remember now. I remember my mom came to me and she said, I apologize for everything that I did wrongly. She did apologize. And for me, I think that melted me.
That's very healthy.
Yes, it was. And I think that was the beginning of the repair of our relationship. Because I wasn't very close to my mom. I was just like, this is just typical tough Nigerian woman. Where's the love? Like, peck me on my cheeks, give me a hug, give me my hands, cuddle, we don't do that.
I would have just settled for a heart to heart. That's
fair. And so, that was the beginning of that repair. So I would say that most of my childhood was amazing. You were allowed to just be. However, there were also times that because of both culture and religion, my parents are staunch Muslims, right? So because of culture and religion, there were things that, you can't be seen doing, you shouldn't be doing. My mom forgets, interestingly, she told me once that, when she was maybe in her 20s, she actually recorded an album. Yeah, even if it was Muslim songs, but she did an album.
She did something.
It means that she had a creative side to her.
Absolutely.
And then I was in secondary school, I remember, I had this big book of poetry or rap. And she saw it and she discarded it.
We both
she said,
did.
You want to sing songs? No, that's not what we do here. And it's all that culture and religious thing. So, there are times when you think about it, you're like, they did their best. And the other times you're like, nah, they could have done better and I don't want to be this.
Yeah.
And so I tell my sister, I have one sister, and I tell her that my parents are my role model in every way you can think of.
Absolutely.
Role model in the sense of, in areas where they were good and amazing, I want to do better. In areas where they were lacking, I don't want to go that route. There are certain things, me and my sister have like plenty of inner jokes, inner circle jokes. And when I'm like, it's going to break on this one. We're not going to carry this one across generations.
No. This is it. It ends with us.
It ends with us. So parenting for me, what I know of intentional parenting now, what I know of people's realities now, and what I know of being an adult, I would say that there's plenty of room for improvement. So I did have an interesting childhood. would say. Very interesting childhood. Some of which, will not delve into right
No,
here,
no,
right now.
we don't plan to open
But
Pandora's
if
box.
I were to weight on a balance on a scale, I would say 40 was really good at some point, and then 60 was plenty of room to improve and to be better.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I like that. That's balance. There's no bad.
Me,
but there's room for improvement you can acknowledge. And
They know me. I'm never ashamed or shy to talk about this. Me, I'm very self-expressive. So
Yeah.
if I say that you guys messed up here, I am willing to show you where and how it could have been different and better.
give you
I'm
an
not saying that
entire
you're bad
blueprint.
people, but
Yeah,
sometimes
but-
good people make bad choices.
Of course. I mean, that's the human side.
Yep.
And so, next question is this. Now, how has that evolved for you?
Interesting.
From your childhood to, again, not just how you are as a parent,
Yeah.
but how you have lived. Have you grown? Have you healed?
Ooh, healing has just started for me.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
just started, I would say, take it back to maybe 1 year or 2 years max. But prior to now, I had serious identity crisis. So this was a child who wanted to be expressive and creative, but then there were certain constraints, again, culture, religion, right? And so that expression wasn't as clear.
Right. Yeah.
Many of people that knew me from way back think, oh, she's a crazy person. I'm not even ashamed. I'm not shy to be crazy. Like, crazy is beautiful.
There is some insanity to creativity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Crazy is beautiful. So it's now that I've come to realize, maybe like 3-4 years ago, that I realized how creative I am, or how much of a creative that I am.
Wow.
Right. And so over the years, it's been what is a textbook way of being, of
Yes.
doing things, and it's following another person or other people's, in this case,
Guidebook.
the authority figures in my life, following their own guidebook, how we should talk. I remember my mom, he'd smacking my hand sometimes because I wanted to shake a guy with my left hand. And the guy was left-handed, so would I have,
You
I
don't
couldn't
like
have
that,
done that, but she was like, we don't do that. Anyway, so getting to know myself, I think it started about 4 or 5 years ago. And it was prompted by my oldest brother. He said to me one day, he literally just sat me down and he said, I think you've changed. And in a very good way. You're more expressive. I can see that you're growing and it's beautiful. I love it. I'm sure he doesn't remember he said that to me.
Yeah.
And I sat and I said, what has changed? I still carry, much of my childhood with me.
Yeah.
But what is it that has changed? And I started to realize, more people want to talk to me. I'm able to hold very honest conversations with people and with myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that change started. So I'm unraveling still. I don't know all of me yet. Unraveling in so many ways.
Yes, of course.
Ways.
Necessary.
Yeah, and it's beautiful to see, and I'm looking forward to getting to that point of, my natural state. And I think that everyone has that natural state. Well, I tell people this all the time. Every child, every individual is a canvas or a plain canvas. And then your parents have their paintbrush in their hands and their paint.
Yeah.
And they choose what they draw on that canvas.
Absolutely.
And then that picture is just there, and that's what you become.
Yeah.
But then, because it's paint, you can choose to be fluid. You can choose to change
yeah, of
and
course,
evolve,
of
and
course.
And so I think that's where I am right now.
Yeah.
I've been painted into a picture over the last 3 decades, and now I'm like, no. Look at me. I'm fluid.
I like
I
that.
can move and change and be whoever I want to be.
I like that. That's
and
good.
not be apologetic about it. So yeah,
And that's I
where I
like that sense of healing. And we'll talk a bit of therapy later on.
Yep.
But I want to ask now, and we'll go to the writing in what you've done now. So you are focused solely on the children's book now, which is wonderful. And I know that you have a lot set out in the future.
Definitely.
Now, but with all of the experience and the knowledge base you have,
Yeah.
and the lack of, and I'm careful to have to use this word, or the lack of maybe proper representation from our people in writing parental guidance books. Do you think that is something that you could, should, or will delve into?
No. The answer is very direct. No. And I say no because I don't know if it's a me thing, or I find there's no better way to say this, unfortunately, but I find people very performative. Right. And it's a sense of, this is how we do things, this is how things should be done. I'm never I don't like to preach, if that's the way to call it. I like to converse. These are my perspectives and my opinion. This is what I think. And my perspective, of course, will be based on my experiences, my exposure, what I've learned, my environment even. And so you would see me here today all chatty. But I was a group of women a couple of days ago, and they could swear that this person doesn't talk, or she's not nice, or she's not friendly.
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm like, this is not my
Or
environment.
you're a snob.
I think it's even more that.
I mean, no, I mean that's.
But again,
usually-
it's I contort to fit into the space that I am in. So I would not be preachy. I would not write a book on how to parent.
Yeah.
I
I
do
get
not
that.
see myself as an authority figure. What I would write, what I would keep doing, what I would keep creating as an artist are works that allow people to identify with something.
Oh,
So
okay.
it will be more from the consumer. I want you. We talked about it earlier as to how adults. You like to infantilize adults in a positive
in a positive way, as a way, yes,
exactly.
to let them connect,
with
the
that
inner
child
child,
in them, with the inner child. And so I would write more things like that.
Oh, I
I
like
want
that, okay.
you as a 30-year-old to pick up my book and say, oh wow, I actually had this experience as a child. I went to my grandmother's.
Yeah.
I remember it wasn't cake we baked. Maybe we baked bread or we made akara together.
Yes,
I want to
yes,
see
I like
that. I
that.
want you to
Connect.
go back in time, have that nostalgia, and then let it form
Let
a
it trigger
smile on your
something.
face.
Yeah, because I like that. Yeah.
Let it trigger something in you. So that's kind of like the route that I would go. There are people who write inspirational books and guidebooks. There's so many of them. I mean, we're in the world of billions of people. But yeah, I stick to my storytelling, very mundane.
Yeah.
But it's in the mundaneness that we find special things.
No, but I like that. I like that because you're influencing the entire spectrum of children and parenting by coming from an angle where you feel not just safe per se, but an angle where you feel like does not put enough pressure, or put any pressure on anyone else.
Yep.
Do you understand? To take your content, your concepts as rules.
Yep.
Because again, rules are always meant to be broken.
Yep, all the
time
time.
again, I cannot count how many times I've had to challenge a book and I read and the book was like rules, or the book was you have to do this.
Yep.
And then being rebellious, you're like, no,
Nah.
I don't.
No.
No, I don't. And so I like that. That's very respectful. But here we take something into account, right?
Yep.
We forget that a lot of people that grew up in Africa
Yep.
were brought up in that way. And I'm grateful. Why I'm saying that is that a lot of people who write parental books forget that a lot of us came from authority and we grew up just wanting to rebel. A lot of us with piercings, a lot of us with certain kinds of hair, not an artistic expression for us or something we want to do. It's like, you know what? It signals a coming out or leaving my parents' house. Because
It's a coming of age thing.
there are a lot of hairstyles that I was told, not in my house. And I wasn't told, you shouldn't do this because you represent yourself a certain way.
Yep.
I heard not in my house. And so I was waiting, no, when I
get
leave
to
your
my
house.
house.
So we're rebellious people,
Yeah,
naturally.
yeah.
So I want to talk now on the therapy, right?
Okay.
Now, because you have said, you had a lot of expression as a child. You wanted
Yeah.
to do a lot of
Yep,
things.
yep.
And then you now had to evolve into somebody that was more conservative.
100%.
And now you have that expression.
Yep.
And so the turning point, would it be you say, you know what, you sought help?
I did seek help. It's interesting. I sought help for one thing, and I think that's what medicine does generally.
yes, of
You go to the doctor for a headache, and then they find out that you have high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Or you go to the therapist for I yell at people, I don't want to fight anymore, and then they say,
find
no,
out
it's
that-
not. This is just a symptom of what is wrong with you. There's you're hidden.
I know this author. Yeah.
They're like hidden and more,
Yeah, things that we
rooted
have to
things that
dig
we
up.
need to peel up, and then let's heal that. So yeah, I did go to therapy after I had my child. So after I had my child, again, like many people who know me know so many different sides of me. So there are people who see the very bubbly, energetic, exciting. I think people say that of me on social media. I'm not always jumpy.
Yeah, they
And
don't.
so-
they will expect.
I'm
Perception,
not always
people.
jumpy.
Yeah.
But then like when I'm in my comfortable space, I'm either quiet or I come out. Again, it's I don't know. I can't explain. It's just met so many things in one.
Yeah.
And so after I had my child, I didn't realize that I had postpartum depression. I didn't know. We didn't know.
No, that's
It
not
was-
something I knew until I watched a movie series a while back. As
Oh,
an actor.
really?
I didn't realize that was a thing.
Many people go through that and you don't even know what is wrong with you.
Yeah.
And so my closest of friends, many of whom traveled from Lagos to Abuja to celebrate with me, I was just like, why are you guys here? Who asked you to come?
Yeah.
And it was a thing, and they were like, what is wrong with this person? And people who were there with me through the pregnancy journey, I didn't want to see them at all. It was so hard. It was, I couldn't recognize myself. And
And you
that's
couldn't connect with your
I
child
couldn't.
as well.
No, funny thing, only my child had
Was
my
it-
attention.
I
She was the
see.
only person like I wanted to be with, spend time with, but of course, whatever form of
Yeah, of course.
And so, as I said earlier, I think I got to the point where nobody gives you a handbook, of parenting or
guide.
even just living, right?
Yeah.
We learn these things through the people's stories. And what I've also learned is as you grow older, people that you've revered for so long, because they don't come out to tell you the full story, because you don't get to see the full picture, you start to find out these things by yourself rather, and then it just breaks you like,
Yeah, the story unravels and it
yeah,
unravels
who's
you
this
too.
person? I
Yeah.
thought it was, And so it was, that also happened for me in 2019. Someone that I used to love so much, like I revered this person. I started to hear things about them. I started to see things about them. And so everything was just boxed into one and it was so heavy. And I found out that I was lashing out. I was breaking down. And for me, it was okay. The first point is there is a problem here and it needs solving. I don't like to, that's not who I am. So I started to see, when you look in the mirror, who's this person? And then I decided to seek help. And then therapy came and it's the best thing ever. Like I would, if I had money, enough money in the world, I would pay for therapy for everybody that I know. Because
Because everybody needs something.
therapy is awesome. If you get a good therapist, it is amazing. It is good. And it is not saying that you're crazy, because I know I'm not crazy. I could be.
A little bit, just a little.
Selectively
Yeah,
crazy.
just like that, yeah.
But it is that for me, it is always, there's a principle in Japan or Japanese ideology called Kaizen, I think, continuous improvement. So I can always get better and I always want to get better. But I know that this is not good enough. And so for me, going to therapy revealed a lot of things. Things that you thought were okay and right. No, it's not okay. It wasn't right, or it could be better. And so going to therapy helped me to reveal the better version of myself. I had like 3 or 4 goals. And then I would say that, yes, maybe we've ticked about 3/4 of the 4 goals. So yes, I had to go to therapy to become the better version of myself. So I could also position myself good enough to parent the way that I'd have loved to be parented.
Absolutely. So, people of love, we take a little gap in this production to be able to satisfy or justify us taking money from those who we call sponsors. We love them and we hope that you love them too. So, see you in a couple minutes.
Today we are here for Nelly and Emmanuel, the latest couple in town. Let me tell you one thing. Love is real, it's beautiful, it can be everything you want and more. All you have to do is say, I do. And that's it.
And we are back talking with Mansu on raising little miracles.
Yeah.
Now, before the break, we talked about your experience as a child, your growing up, whatever, and everything. We unraveled a lot.
Yep.
And now I want to get into the main thing.
I'm
now.
on the couch now.
Yes, you're on the couch now. And so now I want to talk specifically on raising little miracles.
Yep.
And now we'll talk about you as a parent, as an author, and as a professional. Because now that's it. You have to be positioned as a professional if you're writing.
Yep.
Whether you like it or not. And so, first of all, I want to talk about you as a parent.
Yeah.
How would you say you are as a parent now? Self-evaluation.
Wow.
Yeah.
When we parent children, we're like the mirror, we're like the blueprint, so to speak, right? And when you hit children continuously, you're telling that child that when you grow older, somebody who loves you or that you love, it's okay for them to hit you, because this is what people who love you do. But that's not the case, right? And so it is, how can we converse and do these things better? Last is talk. It can get tiring because children are...
Yeah.
For the lack of a better word, guys, children are crazy people. I'm sorry to say,
I have a friend that shares the opinion, and
children are erratic.
And there's where he says children are, forgive me, crackheads.
They are.
Because we send each other funny videos all the time of kids doing the darnest thing.
Oh God.
Like you see a child you'd see that this is a pool or a puddle.
Yeah.
And you know what? what should I do? Jump in
Jump
it.
in
Like,
it. So my daughter does that all the time.
do you understand? And the other one of my favorite ones, and this is where he said children are crackheads.
Yeah.
That we're watching a video of parents driving through with their kids, this petting zoo where you get to feed the animals. And so they wound down their car and they're holding the box of feeds. And an ostrich sticks his neck through and is pecking hard into the wall. And the mother is scared, holding her baby back. Baby grabs the ostrich by the neck.
No kidding.
Grabs the ostrich by the neck, like, get your head out the bowl. And it looks like, it's like, I would not be in that car with that child. You would be by yourself. And then what reinforced it is we're talking about it, and we're talking about it to my mom too. It's close, and we're talking about it to my mom. And my mom said that she had a funny story, and I never knew this story until then. I'm like, why? She had this funny story of me, and she said that I was the child who liked playing in water. I think I like baths. I like playing in water, right? As a child. And so the easiest way, she said, for her to do anything when she was a newborn was that she would put me in that bath and put water under her. And so she said she was outside. She was doing a lot of things. And so she had put me in a bath and I was playing in the bath, beating it. And as far as she could hear me splashing it, she was fine. So I was splashing it. And then at some point she heard me go quiet. And so she heard me go quiet.
This is
and
not
she
normal.
came, and she came and she saw a lizard in the bath. And I was holding a lizard out.
No kidding.
There's a lizard in the bath. And we're outside. And she was outside doing stuff. And
Oh my goodness.
and my mom is
freeze?
scared to death of lizards, geckos. My mom can kill a snake. My mom would not run from a lion. But my mom should not see a lizard or a gecko. That's my mom. That my mom cannot. And my dad. Those two things. I don't know how. My mom would see a snake, and I'm talking about literal live instance, and see a snake and go and like
smack it.
But my mom would see a lizard and we're done with that house. Like, we're moving today. And so my mom said she poured me and the lizard out of the bath.
You're literally pouring the baby in the bath
she
water.
She said, I'm sorry, I can't. She poured both of us out with the bath water.
Oh my goodness.
And so here's the thing I'm going to try to get into now. That's not a lighter note. But the thing is that the quote that I like is children don't do what you say, children do what you do.
They do what you do.
And another one I saw was a trend on Instagram. It says that the adult you are is the adult you wanted to have in your life as a kid. Is who you wanted to talk to as a kid. Jesus.
That's hard.
I'm like, yes. And so, you know why? Because I think about it now is that everybody's kids, I mean, for some reason, I think I'm great with kids and I love everybody's kids. I'm like,
the best uncle.
Yeah, thank you. I'm the one that causes
That
problems.
uncle.
I'm the one that you bring your kids to and they fall asleep. And I have that. And I think about it and I'm like, oh. And so everybody's child feels comfortable talking to me about the things they don't feel comfortable talking to
their parents.
And they'll come to me, and so we watch cartoons together and everything. And so that light now, I'm trying to now understand for you. Where does that fit into your ideology of how you write? Do you understand? Do you write things and say, you know what, I'm not just going to write these things that my children see in books.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or I'm not just going to write things and say, you know what, these are laws. But I'm going to write things that children can relate to from adults.
Absolutely. I think that's what it is. So you see it across the 3 stories we have right now.
Yeah.
It's Tara bakes with grandma, or Tara bakes grandma's cupcakes. The second one is Tara swims and splatters. And then the third is Tara and the fluffy kitten. And these are very like everyday things. So I was speaking to a bookstore owner about a couple of days ago. And then she said to me, why this type of stories? If you're talking about African representation and the likes. And I'm like, do you like to bake? She says, I like to eat cake. I'm like, what? Picture yourself with your grandmother. And she was like, oh, I miss her. I was like, exactly. That's what. Those are the emotions. Yeah. I don't know why Nigerians don't have pets. I mean, there are Nigerians with pets who have pets, but also there is like a huge number of Nigerians, particularly who do not like cats.
I was going to let you land there, yes, no. Because it's winch.
I have friends who won't come to my house because I have a cat. I'm like, it's a beautiful animal. The way they just, rub all up on you.
Yes, and
they actually show you affection. That's what cats do. Yeah. And then it is, it's what you were raised with, right? This my friend's parents, for example, they can't stand cats because, like, God forbid, what's a cat doing here?
Please.
And it's just, what are these everyday things? I totally respect 100% authors who write about being the king of this, the queen Amina of that, more.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We should connect with our history as
Of
well.
course, of course.
But I also want to write stories that kids can relate to and relate with.
Of course.
I want to tell stories about kids who go to the neighborhood park to play because you want to get them outside as well.
Yes.
I want to write stories about baking with your grandmother, knowing that grandmothers exist and they exist for a reason. Without them, you don't have your mother or your father.
Of course.
I want to write about go and swim outside, enjoy yourself. Think about how do you find creative solutions to problems and things like that. They seem very ordinary, but for me, I'm so ordinary. I write poetry as well, right?
Yeah. Oh.
And if you read my poems, you'll be like, this is not Wole Soyinka.
This is
This is
I'm not trying to bamboozle
I am
you in.
not
Yes.
trying.
It's
And
not,
that's a different style
of
entirely,
course,
right?
of course.
And I think this is what art also does. It allows you to express yourself the way that you want to. And there's no good or bad art.
Yes, of
Art is
course.
art.
It's just identity. That's
Exactly.
different.
And it's how they say, interpretation brings meaning. The author is dead. I have written this book. You take it how you want to take it. But I have written it.
Absolutely.
And so for me, I'm going to stick to those very ordinary things.
Yeah.
A book that a 15-year-old will pick and then smile and be like, yes,
I
baked
relate
with
to
my
this.
grandma.
Yes,
you
yeah.
know. Or a 50-year-old and they'll be like, oh, I want to bake with my grandchild.
Absolutely.
It's just very ordinary, I love the simple things.
Yeah. I mean, the
Just the
simple
simple
things
things,
are
yeah.
the best. To be very honest with you, the simple things are the
Yep.
best. And so I'll go back to now the first question to now establish what I'm now trying
Yep.
to get to is you mentioned something. You were saying that you and your daughter would say, you know what, let's work together
Yep.
to ensure that this is done. And that is very in our climb,
Yep.
very advanced parenting. So, and for you now, you know that again, that also comes from the fact that you're exposed to a lot of things.
Yeah.
But what do you say you would want to be careful in ensuring that you actually, do not allow your child to be so independent
Yeah.
in their thought that they pick up things that are imposed on them because they're still very impressionable.
Absolutely.
As much
Absolutely.
as, so that they don't have the wrong things imposed on
Absolutely.
them.
I think it's that it's defining for yourself, your family,
Okay.
what our family values are.
I see.
So when I was growing up and my mother would be worried about certain things, you're going to parties, you're doing this, you're doing that. I was like, first of all, as a kid, as a teenager, not as a kid now, as a teenager, I hardly went to any party. I didn't go to all the, clubs that my
Yeah.
secondary school mates were going to. So I didn't know those things, right?
Yeah.
But I loved it. I was a happy child. I wanted to dance. And by the way, I'm a great dancer. I used to be a great dancer.
No, you still
You
are.
know?
You don't lose some certain
Right,
things.
so I wanted to dance, but we had I'm not sure where we were with those sort of things and ways to express ourselves. I tell her, like, with all the hard work you guys have done, with all the values you guys have, imbibed it also, imposed or imparted, on the positive notes,
Yeah.
it's that a child gets to a certain age where you don't worry. Where you're not bothered about, oh, what are they doing? They're somewhere, but what are they doing? You're not worried about it because
Right.
you've shared those values with them. They hold those values. And trust me, no matter how crazy a child is, if we're clear on the value, on the nurturing, on the guidance, they would always fall back to it. All the time, always. Even if they were making the wrong decisions at that time and in that moment. And so for me, it's being clear about the values.
Yeah.
Do we do certain things as a family, as a people? No, we don't. So it doesn't matter if you see 20 other kids doing it. If we don't do it, then we don't do it.
Yeah.
Now, the other side of it, because, we're human beings, and like you said, they're impressionable.
Yeah.
If it so happens that it is done, there's a way you can get it back and get them out of that. And it's that, are you open enough? As an individual first.
Yeah.
I say this to people all the time. One thing that I wish Nigerian parents did more of was to be open to their kids, to show them that I'm as flawed as any human being out there that you see there.
Yes.
Like, you may not say it, but I have my flaws. I'm not saying go and talk about all your flaws to your
No,
kids
no,
or
you
to
can't
people.
show them anything.
But let them see that sometimes daddy is not the Superman that I think he is.
Absolutely.
Because, daddy has those moments where he's flawed. And I think, putting all of this together, your family values are very clear. We constantly have these conversations. I'm also open. And I think in that openness as well, we also get to learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes, let them go get that thing from outside and bring it back in. Like, oh, so what is, happening now is people are vaping. Tell me about this vaping,
So you're not condemning immediately.
Exactly, and create that atmosphere of, you're in high school. I don't think we're honest enough with ourselves. And across every generation, right? If you start with with your grandparents, they would say, "Oh, when your father was a young boy, look at his afro. Every time in the club with his, boot cuts and happy
My
things."
father who villainized me for so long forgot at one point, and as an adult
Look at
drove me
that.
to his old secondary school, drove back and showed me an old bridge, and he said that there was a time when he went to disco on a Friday night and he was locked on the other side of the bridge
Look
and
at
couldn't
that.
go back to school.
Look at that.
And I looked and I was like, does this man know who he's talking to? And so he forgot about it, and he said his father came to the school the next day and he was not. I'm like, oh really? But yes, I can.
And it's that openness. Be open to that child to say, okay, we've all been through this, so you're allowed to express in that way. But where do we draw the line? My husband always tell you this. No matter, how much fun he's having, no matter how crazy the night gets, he has a rule. He would always come back home.
Oh, that's
And
good.
so imagine, ingraining that in your kids to say, no matter, go and play, go and have fun, and please stop stifling children, stop stifling human beings. Let them express.
I like that.
And it is that if that's a value for your family, for example, no matter how much fun you're having, how crazy the night gets, always come back home. That is something that, they would fall back on. And so, yeah.
I mean,
Principles,
I like
values.
that even because outside of being a rule, it feels more like a safety net. It's that you
Yeah.
feel like, you know what, no matter how bad it gets.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
No
Even if
matter
you're
how bad it
drunk,
gets.
come home. I like,
We're here.
yeah,
Open arms.
I like.
We will talk
I
about
really
it.
like that. We'll talk about. I mean, we have to have to talk, but you'll be sure that they say don't come back to this house because that's another thing we say
Always come back.
from a generation. They say don't come back to this house like this, and I like that. That provides some level of
I mean,
safety.
that's what a home is, right? That's what family is. You always something to always fall back back to.
Yeah. So now let's talk about a little of experience.
Yeah.
Right? What is it that let's see it.
Don't
I
have
want to
kids.
know it a little bit. I tend to always trying to. deep dive. I would
Yeah,
deep dive. So
let's
a little
go.
experience, right,
Yeah.
with the parenting. Have you ever had something where a situation where your child, does something and you're like, how do I go about this? Or they pick up something that you say, this is. I need to tackle this immediately.
Yep.
Or like, for example, now, like we said that in Western societies, that children are being pressured on to be anything. You can be anything you want to be. And that even goes down to sexuality at the age when it's not supposed to be. And so have you had the experiences where you're like, I don't want to come off as harsh, but I need to nip this in the bud.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd give a very interesting example, which happened on Friday.
Okay.
Right, Friday. So I went to pick up my daughter at school. And then, we have this routine or ritual. How was school today? What did you eat? We always start with what you eat. Because she expects that I bring her snacks.
Yes.
I don't do it all the time.
But she
so that,
does.
it's like sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't.
It's a good little fun surprise.
And so we started with, what did you eat? And she said, oh, I ate this, blah, blah. And then I go, so what happened? What was the fun thing that happened at school today? And she says, oh, I don't want to talk about it. And I said, oh, you don't want to talk about it now? Maybe you talk about it later. And then she says, no. By the way, she's 4. And she says, oh, I don't want to talk about it now or later. And I'm like, okay, maybe we'll talk about it when we get home. And she says, no, mommy, I don't want to talk about it now in the car or when we get home. So I go, this is interesting. This means that if something happens, she won't tell me. So I said, why? Why don't you want to talk about it? She said, oh, because it's a secret. And I had a bell ring in my head. I'm like, my daughter is keeping secrets from me. I'm scared.
Yeah.
And so I said, wow, do you know what a secret is?
Yeah.
And she says, oh, yes, you don't want to tell people. I say, wahala. You even know what it means,
Yeah.
okay? So I said to her, it's okay to have secrets, right?
Yeah.
But you don't, at this age, my darling, you don't keep secrets from your mom or
Yeah.
your dad. Why? Because if someone tells you to keep a secret, they could do very, very bad things to you. And she said, bad people? I said, yes. So you don't want to. And again, maybe for me, it was important to have that conversation because
Yes.
I want to know that something is happening.
Yes, something is
I want
happening,
I
yeah.
want you to be able to come and say this is happening.
Absolutely.
And I don't want you to start having these ideas of, oh, I can keep secrets. No, baby, don't keep secrets. When you're
Not
12
yet.
and 13,
Let's
keep all
think
your
about-
secrets,
yes.
But right now, for some other people, it's not great. They would have handled it in a different way. But for
Yeah.
me, please, don't keep secrets. Bad people
No,
can,
please.
use you to keep
Yes,
those secrets.
no.
And so for me, it was something that I thought I needed to like dip in the board at that moment, and to also still keep her in a way that it doesn't totally take her away from who she is. My sister would always say this: I'm giving my children agency. If she doesn't want to talk about it, she doesn't want to talk about it. You know, whether it's now or later or never. I say yes, I agree. But if she's saying it's a secret, please, my
That's a
darling,
different conversation.
bring it out. I want to hear it. Like, and so eventually she came out and said, "Oh, my friend, who's a boy, by the way, he felt very ill and he didn't come to school and it made me very sad." And I said, "Oh, sorry, we'll call his mom to say hello to him. Okay, is that fine?" And she said yes. And that was it. Like, so no secrets.
No secrets. 'Cause
No secrets,
that's
baby.
my
Yeah. So,
chest.
I mean, there are so many examples like that, but yes.
I mean, 4-year-olds have me wrapped around their finger.
Oh, no,
I got-
there are something else.
especially the girls. I mean, that's the thing. Being girls would know how to. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but you see, little girls know how to get the adult men in their life.
Oh,
Uncles,
yeah.
fathers, they know how to manipulate. That's why it's daddy's girls for a reason. And I did not get it because I have one sister.
It's the
And I used to
manipulation
fight
thing.
my sister because, not like fight her, but I used to be
Yeah.
opposed because my dad would do a lot of things. And I'm like, no, I'm like, why?
Yeah, look
Why?
at her. Look at this
Like-
little
And
angel.
she had him wrapped. My father is a huge. My father's an imposing figure,
Oh, yeah.
but he's like butter in her hands, and I'm like, why?
Melts.
So like, yeah, do you understand? And she gets away with everything. Do you understand?
Interesting,
And
yeah.
so yeah, that's something that I can absolutely relate to. That when it comes to having their mother on their side,
Yeah.
they're a lot more. You know what? Yes, my mom. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm,
I'm with their dads. That I don't want to talk about it, and that's it.
And that's it.
That's
he,
how it
he,
ends.
he can't get her to talk about it.
No. He
But-
will
but
not.
it's-
Because
it's
the highest would
interesting.
do is buy ice cream. Do you feel better?
Yeah.
Because that's what
It's
I would do. I would
interesting.
not know what to do. And I
Yeah.
like that you brought that up because now it's not just a guide for parents, it's a guide for men. Men do not know how to handle baby girls. I think men in general don't know how to handle women for a long time. We don't know how to
I think-
relate
Thank
with
you
women.
thank you for
at
bringing
different-
that up.
I'm sorry. But when it is that a woman is going through something,
Yeah.
I promise you, this is a free tip.
Yeah.
98%, if I'm not being outrageous, 98% of a lot of men do not even know how to approach coming.
Interesting.
When we say, you know what, I can't really talk about. A lot of us don't even know how to approach it. 'Cause how many of us have even gone to therapy? For a big honest, so we don't even know how
I've
to.
been dragging my male friends. You need therapy, my love. Look at you. You need it. Go.
We'll try.
Go to therapy.
We'll try our best. We'll try. We'll most definitely try our best.
it is.
But then let's. I want us to now wrap up with something
Yeah.
that, and then we'll now get your thoughts, and we'll just bring this conversation. This conversation can go on forever.
On forever.
I mean, but
can feel
just
it.
to wrap it up so that we
Yeah.
can let you have the rest of your day.
Okay.
Very importantly, I was going to ask, speaking of intentional parenting,
Yeah.
from your understanding, from your perspective, what you hope to communicate in your book, but you may not write in, vivid detail.
Yeah.
What are the things that you see? I'm talking about your immediate society now,
Yeah.
because you're Nigerian, your unique experiences, someone who was brought up in an African home and someone who's parenting in an African home.
Yeah.
What are things that you feel should be things that we should take up now and say, you know what, this should be part of our culture because it's
Yeah.
healthy?
Yeah. I think it's a number of things.
Yeah, please.
But at the top of my head, one is, again, allow the simple things. You're there for a reason. Every time I lay my bed, literally, like once I'm done stretching, it's perfect. That's when she jumps on my bed. Right. And I know and I know people who be like, what is wrong with you? I just
Calm
laid
down.
the bed. But I'm like, jump away, baby. When you're done, you spread it. You like,
Responsibility.
spread out the creases. Yes.
Mm.
Let it be clean and neat. Of course, it won't be as perfect as I did it.
Yeah, but then,
allowing those simple, mundane things.
yeah.
Because I tell people all the time, my husband, he mocks me when she's getting on my own nerves.
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, oh, are you angry? My husband is funny. And then goes, you can't be angry. She's just a child. Because that's what I tell him.
It seems like something I would do.
No.
It is good
He's
petty.
petty.
Good petty.
And then he's like, because you always say that now. Oh, she's just a child. I'm like,
Let-
no, but on a serious note, that brings me back like, oh, actually, yeah, she is just a child.
Yeah.
And I tell all my friends and people, like, if she doesn't do it at 4 years old, do you expect her jumping on the bed at 16, at 18? And then at that time, you tell her she's a crazy child.
Yes, but she
Right,
didn't
so-
get to do it.
Exactly. Let her jump at 4, 5, 6. I'm looking forward to the 8-year-old when we're going to like sit down and talk and be more responsible.
Yeah.
But let children be children. So I think I would just like dovetail into the second thing. First of all, allow the simple things. It's what make us, human beings. It's what make us whole. And I think the best of people are those who have wholesome experiences. Whatever those experiences are.
The full.
Let people explore. Let them go outside. My daughter takes a walk. let her splash in water, jump in the puddle.
Yeah.
There are days that you're exhausted and you can't handle all that stress. But, the more someone does something, the more they're able to sort of create their own boundaries, So she knows that when we're dressed for school, we're not jumping in the puddle at that time.
Yeah.
But
You
you're
don't have
back
to be
from
told.
school. Yes, you're back from school. There's a puddle that, please, my dear, jump away. But
like
so it's
that.
allowing those simple things. Third and last thing I would say is let them be, please. Like it's beyond projection for me. It's, oh, I didn't have this as a child, and why are you going to have it? And that's the thing we said about
the suffering Dior.
exactly. That's why should you get it? Why should you have it? Whereas it could have been better. So why not? You start. Let's be better, so that each generation gets better and better and better. And so those are my simple submissions on parenting. There's no one size fits all, by the way.
Absolutely.
So you know your child, you know yourself.
Yeah,
So
I like
please,
that.
let's not take childhood from children, so we can have fully functional adults as well.
Oof.
And not have to deal with crazy people driving on Abuja roads. It stresses me out.
No, absolutely. Like I said, if we let this conversation, it would go on forever. But I cannot tell you how full this conversation has been.
Thank you.
It has been very selfish. I can't say it has felt very selfish. I'm going to be honest. Yes, I did this for me. A lot of the conversations we had were not for you or for me. But I mean, I have enjoyed this. And
Same.
I'm so grateful that you have books coming out.
Yep.
Talking to you now makes me feel that there are not a lot of people in the world, and I cannot think of anyone better to be able to tell the stories that you're telling.
I'm honored.
And I'm grateful that you're doing it.
Thank you.
And so, people of love, ladies and gentlemen, I unfortunately, with a heavy heart, I have to bring this conversation to a close. But Mansu has invested her life, her experiences, the bulk of who she is, what she has learned, and how she has evolved. And she has put it on ink. Not just in a way that condescends on anyone or forces people to be anything beyond what they are, but allows people to be water and find the containers that they fill and they adapt to.
Beautiful.
And so you would find those very deep messages and those very important, heavy conversations that will be told through a beautiful little girl named Tara. And so Tara will bake with her grandma, she will splash and she will swim, and she will have furry little friends that fill up her life and her heart with warmth and love. And I hope that when you do read this, even if it's nostalgia, whatever feelings or emotions you have, that you explore all of these emotions and you let yourself live, you let the children be. My name is David Williams, also known as Big Talker, and it has been such an honor and such a pleasure to share this conversation with you. So take care. Until next time.